Good morning, good morning, colleagues. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you are here, a heart if you are happy, and if you can hear me? Good morning, Mr. Walker. Yay! Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to season 3, episode 2 of the Empower Hour. And today, our conversation is around inspiring conscious curiosity and creativity in teaching and learning, particularly around the educational technologies. We have been so thrilled by the attention, the emphasis, and also the amount of interest in our Empower Hours that we've had over the last 3 years. Um, if you all remember, in the beginning of the year, we had Mr. Benjamin that actually spoke to the conscious collective within the WCED and how to empower consciousness within our work. And that topic actually drew on so much more around the education spectrum as a whole. And so, with that, the inspiration just flowed even more for us to think about how does this also filter into the classroom environment? How does that filter into the learning environment? And this is where the topic came through in terms of the inspiring the conscious creativity in learners in particular. And we are so blessed to have Lindsay Wisner here. Lindsay, are you here? Can you give us a yay? Perhaps you can put your camera on so everyone can see you before we start. I think she may have been kicked out, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think she was kicked out. But as we wait for Lindsay to come back in, just waiting for her. She's messaging me. So as we're waiting for Lindsay to come back, and she was just here now 2 seconds ago, just to tell you about today's session. So this particular topic, it focuses on the understanding and the impact of conscious curiosity and creativity in our social and educational context of today, in particularly around the context of South Africa and the South African classroom. And this means empowering creativity and curiosity that connects to the purpose, the values, the culture, the principles of design to lead and to develop critical thinking and reflective thinking in our learners, particularly around emphasizing around experiential learning as well. There's Lindsay. Hey,
Everybody.
hey, we're so happy that you're here. I'm just talking about the power of what this topic is all about.
Amazing. That's wonderful.
So this topic also needs to facilitate mindfulness and the consciousness and the collective responsibility of education and in the learning environment. So Lindsay, we are just so excited to have you here with us. I mean, you have been such a pillar in our entire, I love that photo. You've been such a pillar within the educational spectrum as a whole, having been a teacher as well as moving into within the service provider industry around teacher development, and then now moving into your own business around educational technologies and in edumagineering and learning architecture and all of that fancy, awesome words that Lindsay is going to speak to you about today as well. So about Lindsay, so Lindsay is also known as Lady Wisner. So please check her out on Twitter, on Instagram at Lady Wisner. And she is a former award-winning educator who's the co-founder, the director, and experience architect of Purple ZA, a gamified professional development platform and PD company. And she is the leader of the hashtag ZA Edu community. This is on Twitter. She is an international keynote speaker, Google certified educator, trainer, and innovator. Can we just say, yay, that's amazing? And an Apple professional learning specialist. She works with teachers and school leaders, engaging in teacher training, coaching, and mentoring associated with the implementation of educational technologies and progressive pedagogies in South Africa, South African classrooms and beyond. Lindsay loves to inspire and empower, no pun intended, others to confidently navigate the changing educational landscape and believes that bringing true innovation to life requires partnership. As you can see what's happening here, thoughtful visioning, excellence, empathy, yay, vulnerability, yay, courage, and a refusal to continue to perpetuate the status quo. You are speaking my language. She is rather fond of a good glass of wine, jazz music, and powerlifting. Yes, she's amazing at that too. And is mildly obsessed with all things magical. So, yes, Lindsay, we are truly, truly excited to have you here. Truly excited that you gave us a big yes to actually share your insights and to share your journey, as well as to delve deep into a topic such as this that's really profound and really vast in so many ways, because it not just takes on the context of digital technologies and digital education, but also just social constructs within the classroom and within the learning environment. So it's quite a vast topic, and it's a tall order, and we're really appreciative of you being here with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm not a fan of listening to my so-called accomplishments read out, but I think what's important is the values and the principles behind it, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'd love to connect. Excuse the croaky voice. Winter is getting to all of us. But I'd love to connect with you all as we kind of dive in. And I'd love for you to tell me in the chat what it is that you are wondering today. Is there anything on your mind, on your heart? It does not have to be work related. It can absolutely be anything at all. But what is it that you're wondering today?
Fantastic stuff. Lindsay, I'm going to click off now, switch with my camera. You can take me off that screen there. And then I'm going to leave it to you guys. Please share some reactions, share your thoughts, and please register as well for the session. The ID key is in the chat, and we are looking forward to this. And towards the end, we will also have a Q&A. So over to you, Lindsay. Fantastic things.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to learning about your curiosities and your wonderings in the chat as we dive into this really intriguing topic this morning. So I think Peter did a good enough job of introducing me with the long story. For those of you who don't know about Purple ZA, you'll notice that there's never very much of the color purple anywhere, and that is because we are about purpose and people, and putting purpose and people at the heart of teacher education. Purple. Get it? Everyone with me? So our passion really is changing education from the inside out, and connecting to the teachers and the people like yourselves who really are the ones who are at the heart of this education system. So as we enter into this morning's exploration, I wanted to introduce you to the words of Erno Rubik. I'm sure everybody knows about the Rubik's Cube. But he says, if you are curious, you will find the puzzles around you. And if you are determined, you will solve them. So as we dive in, I'd like to invite you to be curious about this topic. I'd like to invite you to be curious about yourself, about your role, about your schools, about education as a whole. And let's leverage the power of questions and curiosity as we look at the kind of heart of our job, right? So the first thing that I want to know from you is, and I'm trusting that you can see my slides. The first thing that I want to know from you is, what is learning? If you had to define learning, how would you define learning? So there is a bit.ly over there, or you can scan the QR code that will take you to a little Mentimeter activity where I am keen to hear your thoughts on what learning is. Thank you, Giselle, for setting up that poll about the Bwanda. Let's have a look at what you think learning is. I'll reveal the answers in a second. I want to hear your thoughts. What is learning? If I wake you up in the middle of the night and I say, what is learning? What will you tell me? Someone thinks it's about constructing new knowledge and understanding that allows us to thrive. That's a great definition.
Lindsay, can you add the QR code again, please?
Yes, sure. Apologies. There we go. And perhaps if somebody can just pop that link in the chat, that would be good. What is learning? I know it's early and the brains are still defrosting, but hopefully there's some caffeination and good vibes happening. An exploration and discovery of the unknown. Thank you for your honesty and vulnerability, person who's like, this is a hard question. It is a hard question. Discovery, getting to know that which was not known by you before. It always fascinates me, although this is a hard question, quote unquote, it always fascinates me to ask people in education this question, because ultimately this is the heart of what we do. So I wanted us to kind of tap into thinking about what learning is and show you, maybe while you watch this video, some inspiration will come to you and you can expand on your definition of learning. But have a little look at this. I love that video because it reminds me of so many different aspects of learning that we don't think about necessarily when we're trying to come up with an academic definition. The interactivity, the collaborativeness, the fun, the play, the experimentation, the curiosity, the adventure, all of those words that I definitely associate with learning. I think for me, learning is, in a word, about change, right? That we are able to assimilate and acquire and develop things that change the way that we respond to the world, right? And Hafiza mentioned learning architect this morning, but there's a reason at Purple ZA that we don't refer necessarily to teachers or educators or lecturers, and we offer teachers the title of learning architect, because I think often, as we saw in the exercise earlier, we struggle to kind of define learning. But if we look at the heart of the job of an educator or an educationalist, I think these words from Tom Loud sum it up beautifully, because he says we can't just be satisfied with teaching. We must be obsessed with learning and why or why not learning happened. And I think in my life as a teacher, there were so many moments where I'd be assessing student work and I'd go, I taught you this. And I'm sure you have similar moments with colleagues and educators that you engage with. You're like, I taught you this. But I think the key question that we need to be asking is, did they learn this? And when we start to see ourselves as learning architects and designers of learning, I believe there's a really, really powerful shift that happens. So then if learning is at the heart of what we do and what we want to accomplish in education, we need to ask ourselves a critical question. What is it that drives learning, right? Is it the need for academic achievement? Is it the system? Is it the educator? What is it that actually drives learning at a deeply human level?
Imagine the awesomest thing you can. Like an automatic grilled cheesemaker, or a time machine with an automatic grilled cheesemaker. Now imagine who's going to invent it. Him? Glasses here? Whoever they are? Or maybe her? But how do kids like these become the types of people that do things like this? Maybe we should ask this guy.
Knowledge is heavy. Sometimes it's a limit to have new ideas. That's the problem with the old schooling, because they were teaching answers. I believe questions are probably more important today than the answers.
Erno's cube is a question waiting to be answered. And when the right person finds the right question, something amazing happens. They start seeing the world as it truly is. Not a place to be memorized, but a place to be figured out, flipped, turned, twisted, and ultimately made better forever. Today, she may be an octopus, but help kids like her fall in love with problem solving, and they will embark on journeys to become scientists, artists, engineers, designers, inventors, or something no one's ever been before, but you can bet we're gonna need. That's why moments like this, go, and this, and this, and especially this, are so important. Because there are companies to found, planets to walk on, time machines to invent, a future to be made amazing. We may not know what it's going to look like, but we know who's going to do it.
I would love for you to share in the chat if there was anything in particular that resonated with you, that stood out for you in that video. And every time I watch that video, something different connects with me. But I think in the context of today's topic and today's discussion, I love how Una Rubik says sometimes knowledge is heavy and it's a limit to have new ideas, and emphasizes that questions are so much more important than the answers. And I think if there's one thing that we can probably agree on is that we don't necessarily want learning, however we define it, to feel heavy, right, or burdensome. We want it to feel the opposite, I would imagine. So,
Why? Get up, girl.
Why?
It's daytime.
Not daytime, it's uptime.
Yeah, it's uptime. You've got to brush your teeth.
Why?
Because you have morning breath.
Why?
Why what? No, kids can't have coffee.
Why?
Because Coffee is for big people
Why?
because little kids can't drink it. It makes you too hyper.
Why make me too hyper?
I'm not sure if any of you have children under the age of 5 or engage with or have family of children under the age of 5. But I'd love for you to guess how many questions does a young person, 5-year-old or younger, ask on any given day? What do we think? How many questions? Give me a number in the chat. How many questions do children under the age of 5 ask every day? We've got 400, 500,000. I think if you're a parent of one, it potentially feels like millions. And then what about when we slightly older age groups? So let's go, up to let's say grade 7. On average, how many questions do we think a child of kind of between the ages of 5 and 13 ask in a day? Does that number increase or decrease? Okay, I'm seeing a definite decrease. And then what about when they get to high school? Yeah, 0. If you taught high school like me, you'll know there's only 2. What time is break and can we have a free lesson? Those are the most 2 common questions. And what if we think about it's not yes, and does it count for marks? Absolutely, you are perfectly correct there. What if we think about ourselves? Let's not stop at students. Let's think about ourselves and look in the mirror. How many questions do we ask on any given day that are not functional questions, right? So not who's fetching the children, what's for dinner, what time is this, have you printed this, have you done this task, right? But how many questions do you think we ask out of genuine curiosity and awe and wonderment at this incredibly marvelous and fascinating world that we get to live in? Because I think it was Clinton who was on the money there. Your average 5-year-old asks 314 questions in a day. But I'm not a fan of just complaining about the fact that we clearly see a decline in student curiosity as they get older. We can discuss the reasons for that for sure in great detail. But for me, the key thing is that we need to understand the power of curiosity. William Arthur Ward says curiosity is the wick in the candle of learning. And I love this quote because, think about the last time you were really, really curious about something. And potentially you went on down the YouTube rabbit hole researching, or you tried to find every expert that you could that knows something about it, or you went and bought books and resources to help you learn something, a skill, a passion. Maybe it was recipes, or maybe it was the art of bonsai, or it could have been absolutely anything. When we are truly passionately curious, nothing will get in the way of our learning. And I firmly, firmly believe that we as teachers, as education leaders, if we are not passionately curious, if we do not live lives of intrigue and fascination and marveling with wonderment, then how can we expect our students to be? How can we expect our students to be passionately curious if we do not model that for them? So I want to tap into your curiosity a little bit this morning. Many of you, I'm sure, will be familiar with the I see, I think, I wonder thinking routine. It's part of Harvard's Project Zero Visible Thinking Routines. But I want to show you an image this morning, and I'd love for you to share in the chat, what do you see, what do you think, and what do you wonder? You can start your sentences with those sentence starters. All right, are you ready? Let's have a look. What do you see? What do you think? And what do you wonder? I see, I think, I wonder. Giselle sees a kid jumping. She thinks he or she wants to get to the other side, and she wonders if they will make it. Clinton sees excitement and is wondering whether it's going to be followed by gratification or pain. Melissa sees joy and thinks it's just not safe, and she wonders what's happening in the background. What I absolutely love about this kind of activity, Fees is wondering if he's laughing. What I absolutely love about this activity is how we can all look at the same thing and wonder something completely different. And I want you to think about, what does it feel like? Take a second and sit with yourself and tap into, what does it feel like to wonder? What does it feel like to be in awe? What does that do for you as a human? And if you still have that Mentimeter link open, I'll move us along to the next activity, or you can just pop it in the chat. That's absolutely fine. But what does awe feel like for you? What does awe feel like for you? Can you give me some words that describe what feeling wonder or feeling awe feels like in your body? You can pop them in the chat if that's easier. Thank you for the link, Jacobus. Feels like magic. It feels captivating. What else? To me, all feels a little bit like warmth. It's this kind of igniting within. Sometimes anxiety, absolutely. We can get overwhelmed. We feel uncertain even. But mostly it's absolutely an unbelievable feeling, right? Energizing, lightness, joy, freedom, gratitude, refreshing, appreciation, breathlessness. What a word. When you're so overwhelmed that you can't actually even breathe, that we feel that our breath has been taken away from us. So the question then for me comes to, if curiosity and awe and wonderment is such a powerful driver of learning, but yet we have so many students that are leaving the school system less curious than when they've started, which I believe is definitely something that we can do better at. How then do we design for learning which cultivates and nurtures curiosity? And I've seen in the chat the kind of common concerns being raised of, you know, within the system, how do we make space for this, right? How do we address we need to teach to the test issue, right? But before we get to how do we design, or how might we design for learning which cultivates and nurtures curiosity, perhaps we should look at how we do not do that. So one of the ways, and there are many, that I have seen educators design for learning, which does not cultivate and nurture curiosity. In fact, it kills the curiosity the second their mouths are opened, is when we start our lessons with, good morning class, today we are going to learn about XYZ, right? And we list the learning outcomes, or we list the topics, or worst, we're like, you know what, open the textbook, turn to page 63, let's start with activity 4. If you know of any other ways to not cultivate curiosity, feel free to share them in the chat. But I think it's really important that we are conscious about our methodologies when we are working with teachers and when we are teaching ourselves, that we do not start our learning journeys in a way that leaves no space for student curiosity. Because unfortunately, when we do that, in that very instance, we shut down and we squash and we push away that natural curiosity that our students are born with, right? That we see when we work with the youngest of students. I'm a very, very big fan of the design thinking process because I think what it does is it helps us to think critically through questions like these, right? When we're looking at curiosity and creativity in teaching and learning. And I particularly love that design thinking starts with empathizing, right? It starts with understanding my user. For whom am I designing? What is it that they need? And if we look at design thinking as an approach, we can actually design think our teaching, right? We can design think our entire education system if we think about for whom are we designing this system. So we know that in our classes today we have Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are known as the problem finders, right? They are potentially, well, not potentially, they are definitely the most socially and emotionally and environmentally conscious generation to ever walk the planet. These students in our classes today are wired differently. And we can elaborate on that all day, but the essence of it is, how do we design learning that cultivates and nurtures the curiosity of these young people in our classes today? And how do we empower teachers to do the same? So I've got 6 little ideas for you, and hopefully these are practical and implementable suggestions of ways that we can cultivate and nurture curiosity and creativity. We're going to get to creativity in a second. The first one is to invite wonder. Right, I did a see, think, wonder activity with you earlier. This is another one. On the left, we have a very interesting provocation, a somewhat intriguing image. And what I love about this image is that if I invited my class to do a see, think, wonder based on this image, it could pretty much be a lesson on anything. Right, it could be a creative writing language lesson, it could be a science lesson, it could be a maths lesson, it could be a geography lesson, it could be a business studies lesson. Is this a viable business, right? It could be a drama lesson. We can literally, and I don't want to mention however many subjects we have, but the power of inviting wonder and inviting students, what do you wonder about? Whatever the topic is that you're exploring. How do you imagine something to be? How do you imagine something to feel? Even if they don't have prior knowledge, they can still imagine. Asking questions like, what questions do you have about this topic? What if this were to happen? What if this were the scenario? Right? These are just some simple sentence stems that we can use to invite wonder when we are guiding people on a learning journey. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the concept of a wonder wall, but what you'll see here is a classroom display. This one, if you look closely, you'll notice that there wasn't necessarily a given topic. So someone's wondering why dogs bark, another one is wondering why slavery was legal, another one is wondering how the internet was made, another one is wondering about being old. Let me just let my doggy out. Another one is wondering about being old. This is just another depiction of a wonder wall. What I love about this is that it's personalized to the students, and they can, with a good old laminator and whiteboard marker, they can re-wonder and be invited to wonder again and again about learning. And this one is from a local school in Cape Town. This was grade 2 learners when they were, or 3, I think, when they were learning about space. And their teacher started them off with the opportunity to wonder. And when we look at these things, I mean, somebody is wondering if anyone has ballet danced on the moon. And another one is wondering, did Mars ever have life? And another one is wondering, are there more things living in the galaxies? And another one is wondering how many galaxies there are. And another one is wondering how big the moon is. And I think this is just such a beautiful example of how when we tap into student curiosity, particularly at the beginning of a learning journey, our students have the opportunity to really connect to and engage with the learning process. So inviting wonder, practically implementable way that we can, and it doesn't have to take a whole lesson of curriculum teaching time, but it does do an incredible job. The way I kind of think about it is when we ignite curiosity and when we invite wonders, if you think of a braai, we can't just put the meat on the fire on the grid with the coals or the wood underneath and not light them and say, okay, meat, cook. But what igniting wonder and sparking curiosity for our students does is light the fire, right? It primes them for learning. And then we have a whole lot more chance of getting that nice steak cooked and for the learning to happen. The second thing which is related is we need to spark curiosity. So I showed you 2 examples already of a provocation this morning in the images connected to the See, Think, Wonder. And I love this infographic or sketch note from Trevor McKenzie and Rebecca Bathurst Hunt, who speak about the power of a provocation. How do we find something? And a provocation can be an image, it can be a video, it can be a GIF, it can be an experiment, it can be the way you set up a classroom, right? It can be in a walk around the school. But a provocation is such a powerful ingredient for learning because it connects our students to whatever it is that we're learning about, right? And it does all of these beautiful things that you see on the screen in front of you. So some examples of provocations. We're not going to go too deep into the politics of this one, but you can use cartoons as provocations. We can use physical experiments. We can use GIFs or images. This one is called Revolution. Here's another GIF. I have no idea what it is, and I'm going to leave you to wonder about it. There are some really, really great places that you can find provocations. So on a practical note, the New York Times has got a website called What's Going On in This Picture. There is also a phenomenal website called The Kids Should See This. That's the TKSST, which has a number of curiosity-driven wonderings expounded and explained. It's very similar, Wonderopolis, great particularly for younger learners. They can explore wonders, they can share wonders, and students from around the world can connect with them and research and share learning together. In terms of mathematics, Mathigon has got an incredible collection of applications of mathematics. Google Earth Voyager has got some amazing expeditions that you can go on where you can explore and engage with and wonder about and seek learning of the many, many, many fascinating things on our planet. It also includes a time-lapse feature. I love using time lapses as provocations to get people thinking, connecting, learning. And then, of course, if you don't know, you can add the numbers 360 onto the end of any YouTube video, and you will get an immersive 360-degree video that you can actually move around with while you're in there. So that they are filled with 360-degree cameras. And you can see on the screen the mouse is navigating where in the video to direct the camera's gaze. Provocations are everywhere, they just need to be found, right? The third piece of advice that I want to share around designing learning that cultivates and nurtures curiosity is to have our students connect to real world problems, right? Tapping into the fact that this generation of learners in our class today are deeply connected to problems anyway. There's something about this generation that not only want to solve problems, they want to find problems. If you invite them to find a problem, they will find it for you. And of course, when we look for problems to solve, what we enable our students to do is to move beyond Googleable learning, right? So Googleable learning, I can type in something that I'm wondering straight into a Google search, and it's going to come up in the top 2 or 3 hits. Non-Googleable questions are questions that we will eventually be able to find the answer on Google or ChatGPT, but it is not going to simply generate the answer for us straight up. And if we design learning around non-Googleable questions, something like connecting them to the UN Sustainable Goals, right? You cannot ask ChatGPT or Google to specifically solve one of these problems in your unique context. Yes, you can put it in and it will give you some answers, but to actually action and generate and create that solution is where incredible learning happens. Connecting our learning, our curriculum, our syllabi to these sustainable development goals is a really incredibly powerful way to bring learning that cultivates curiosity, that engages our students, and that curiosity and wonderment that they have can actually carry them through an investigation and a problem-solving process. So what if we asked our students, which problem do you want to solve? Right? Depending on the nature of the task, we can narrow it down, we can address a specific facet of society. But when we ask our students which problem you want to solve, incredible things happen. And I am convinced that the very best and most powerful learning happens at the intersection of curiosity, creativity, and the world's problems. And let's be fair, we have a lot of them. For example, this is Natalie Hampton. She's a teenager. When she was 14, her parents moved around a lot, so she constantly found herself in new schools. And she connected to this problem and all by herself developed an app called Sit With Us, which helps students know which collections, groups, cliques, clusters of friends on the playground or in the dining hall are open to conversation and will welcome somebody in. You can Google Sit With Us app and read a little bit more about how it works, but I think it's just such an incredible example of what happens when young people connect to problems that they are passionate about and are curious about finding real world solutions to those problems. So we've spent a lot of time this morning tapping into the first part of our topic of how do we design for learning which cultivates and nurtures curiosity. But what about creativity? Now, as you would have seen from the Venn diagram, I believe that these two can be intrinsically linked. But let's think about the creative element. How do we not design for learning which cultivates and nurtures creativity? Well, I hate to say it, but if we do not invite expression, and I'm going to elaborate on that shortly, that is when we squash creativity. To be perfectly honest, it breaks my heart when I walk around schools and I see walls of student art that are effectively replicas of each other. I love this quote from Chris Lehman who says, if you give your students a project and get back 50 of the same thing, that is not a project, that is a recipe. And I think there's a crucial aspect of the way that we design learning where students can still demonstrate understanding, we can assess it with a rubric, but we have not given them a recipe for exactly the only way that that project can be completed successfully. Because right then and there, we squash our students' creativity. I want to share with you the product of one of the projects that were not a recipe that I gave my students. These were grade 11 students when we were looking in life orientation at relationships. And I tasked my students, I said, identify a problem in the area of relationships and then write a letter to your boss outlining the need for a campaign around this issue. And motivating for the funding and the finances and the resources you will need. That was part 1. Part 2 was create a viral video that brings attention to the problem and awareness around the issue. And part 3 was write a blog post as somebody on the internet who has stumbled across your video and is reflecting on the impact that it had on them. And I love for you to have a look at the videos that my students created, because I think it embodies in a beautiful way what our students are capable of when we allow them to be creative and when we nurture their curiosity around a topic.
Shadows settle on the place that you left. Our minds are troubled by the emptiness. Destroy the middle, it's a waste of time. From the perfect start to the finish line. And if you're still breathing, you're the lucky ones. 'Cause most of us are heaving through corrupted lungs, setting fire to our insides for fun, collecting names of the lovers that went wrong, the lovers that went wrong. We are the wild youth, chasing visions of our futures. One day we'll reveal the truth. The one will die before it gets done. If you're still bleeding, you're the lucky ones. 'Cause most of our feelings, they are dead and they are gone. We're setting fire to our insides for fun, collecting pictures from a flood that wrecked our home. It was a flood in love, then you are the lucky one.
It's a powerful piece of learning that, and it was the 3 gentlemen at whose faces you see at the end of that video that wrote and directed that. And let's just say, when I was busy marking that project, I had to put down the red pen and pick up the tissues big time. But one of the things that learning, designing learning that invites expression taught me is that student choice is really at the heart of self-directed learning. And one of the ways that we can foster student curiosity and creativity is by giving our students a choice, letting them connect to a particular element of a topic. Maybe it's the product, the format, the timing, the group, the content, who the audience is. But if we eliminate the element of choice and put all of our students into the recipe machine and make everybody create exactly the same thing, then we are definitely not creating curiosity. So my final 2 tips for you in terms of this topic of exploring and how we might design for learning that cultivates and nurtures curiosity and creativity is exactly that, to design for learning. I believe that the curriculum is not the enemy, and I will stand on this soapbox till the day I die, because we can leverage the curriculum to design incredible learning for our students. And I have examples after example, and I'll show you now where to find them, of teachers that are leveraging the power of technology and progressive pedagogies and learning design to move away from things like this worksheet on is this a healthy or an unhealthy food, to designing a unit of inquiry that covers the curriculum and more cross-curricularly, so including elements of English and natural science and drama and mathematics, asking their students the question, are sandwiches the superfood of the future? And inviting students to design their own superfood sandwich. That is learning. When we design learning, that is almost like a treasure hunt where we have gone through and plotted the boxes of the activities that our students can unpack and discover, then we are designing for learning. We are not just dragging them through on a walk that is in a teacher-centered and teacher-driven direction. So if you're interested in having a look at some of the stories and examples that I was talking about, on our website, on the stories page, you will find South African teachers leveraging the power of curiosity and creativity with their students. And I hope that you will find that inspirational. We also interview those teachers on our Espresso Cafe YouTube channel. And it's just incredible to see teachers that are actually doing this, because to me, it really inspires with possibility. And then the last thing is that we need to lead with curiosity. If we as educators, as those mentoring and leading educators, as those shaping the future of education in this country, behave like this gentleman in the cartoon, we have no hope. But if we come alongside teachers and we ask them a simple question, like, what do you want students to feel in your classroom? And take them on a design thinking process of, now that I've empathized with you as the teacher, let's ideate, let's iterate, let's look at how we can create that learning together. Let's prototype it, let's test, let's get feedback. Let's engage with the intention of bringing curiosity and creativity into our learning design. So in summary, I think those 6 key elements sum up some practical and implementable things that we can do to lead creative and curious learning design. And because I had a little bit of time this morning, I decided to pop those into an infographic for you. So you can find that at bit.ly/theheartoflearning. If you want to print it and put it up in your office somewhere or share it with educators, that's essentially a little bit of a summary of what we've kind of unlocked and tapped into today. And as we head into questions, and I'm happy to answer and engage with questions, I'd like to ask you to share in the chat a personal commitment of your response to this exploration this morning. Where to from here when it comes to igniting and fostering and nurturing curiosity and creativity in teaching and learning? What is one thing that you can do on Monday to take a step towards that, whatever that may mean for you in your role? And then, do you have a dream for someday? Is there something that you can envision and picture and would like to see someday? And perhaps you'll find colleagues in the chat who share your vision and who want to work with you to co-construct and to create that. So share with us in the chat, what is your Monday and your someday? And I will close my part with these words. The future belongs to the curious, the ones who are not afraid to try it, to explore it, to poke at it, to question it, and to turn it inside out. Thank you so much for your time and your engagement in listening this morning and in sharing in the chat. I would love to hear questions, thoughts, observations. Share with us your Sunday, share with us your Monday, and let's fight the good fight for creativity and curiosity in teaching and learning.
Wow, 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 wow. You know, when I was thinking about this whole morning, I've been having this rumbling in my tummy, like this nervous energy, which is like strange because I mean I've been doing the power hour for such a long time, and yes, I always get nervous when I have to speak in front of people, but at the same time, it's just like this feeling, and I was curious about this feeling, and it's because this topic means so much. This topic is such a big topic. This topic is something that requires so much of ourselves as well, besides just the concept of what we bring to the learner. Because like you're saying, we have to lead, we have to set the example, we have to model what curiosity and creativity is in our own spaces, within our own roles as human beings, and we need to cultivate that into the learning environment and within the learner. So the topic in itself, and having to grapple with this topic and what this topic actually will bring forward for all of us, made me so nervous in essence, because I'm all about creativity and curiosity. I mean, I believe in creative leadership. I believe that at the core, I work from a space of creative leadership. So you have brought so much to our thinking, so much to where we are at. The chats have been the busiest chat I've ever seen in terms of the thoughts around what you are sharing with us, and how we are also being able to cultivate this within our own spaces. Because and I know that there are questions. I'm going to open the floor to questions right now, but I want to ask you a question, Lindsay, that kept coming to me, that one of the key challenges that our teachers are experiencing, and often it comes to us as the specialists within and the officials within WCED as well, in terms of discipline. How do you cultivate the curiosity, creativity, digital technologies, enhancing the learning experience? How do you do all that with the challenge of the discipline that we have? How do you shift that focus around, or shift the the mind frame and the fears that come with discipline? Because in so many ways discipline has become a systemic problem. So can you advise maybe around that?
I can only tell you what I did in my own classroom, and I think that's probably the most real and responsible way that I can answer the question. We were asked the other day recently, we run a session on classroom management with a particular school because they're having discipline issues, and I said, can we first do a session on learning design? And the principal, kind of took a while to get their heads around that. But I really believe that when our teachers are learning architects, part of being a learning architect and designing learning is understanding what is required of the students at each stage in that learning process, and communicating that and designing learning in such a way that they do not want to deviate, decoy, disrupt, disturb, etc. I think because we're talking about tapping into the essence of human beings, when we connect to the essence of human beings, and our humans are learning and they are curious and they are engaged. In my classroom, the levels of engagement when I started designing learning with curiosity in mind, it honestly became almost a non-issue. And I think exactly what I was mentioning, growth mindset, change mindset, designing with learning at the heart, rather than, because a lot of our design when we are designing for discipline is around control and compliance and all of the things that are opposite to curiosity. So I think for me, the essence of it is upskilling our teachers to design learning that our students want to engage in, rather than that they want to escape from, because I think many of our discipline issues are just responses to our students that want to get out.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that answer. And thank you for those that also brought some thoughts to the chat. I see, Nolene, your hand is up if you want to ask a question for Lindsay. Nolene?
And the rest of you are welcome. Thank you, Gilbert, for sharing your Monday and your someday. The rest of you are welcome to share reflections and/or questions in the chat. Are you there, Nolene?
I'm
I think
sorry,
Nolene-
Hafisa, it was
Oh,
by
there you
mistake.
are.
Thank you very much.
it was a mistake.
Thank you, Lindsay. Profound presentation. Thanks.
Such a pleasure.
Fantastic. Are there any questions in the, anybody wants to put on their mic and maybe ask a question to Lindsay? Jaco?
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask the question, how do you overcome the fear that the teachers have of not being able to meet the standards that are placed on them by the system? In other words, how do you overcome that question of, sir, is this one going to be for marks? Because I think a lot of teachers are afraid of, if I implement a new way of going about things, will that affect the kids might be learning, but systemically in terms of the system, they are not performing to the same standard. How do you overcome that fear?
That's a very good question. I think first of all, acknowledging that it is a fear, so it's an emotional response, and we need to deal with that at an emotional level, is a key factor. For me, when I work with teachers, that's one of the reasons actually that the stories that I created the stories page that's on our website. That was actually my Google Innovator project, because I feel like teachers in terms of essentially helping them navigate through change of any sort, really. We like to shift blame, right? So I talk about the enemies of innovation as time. Everybody's got no time. The curriculum in any way, shape, or form, and then fear, right? Basically, essentially, any excuse that I've ever heard for a teacher around why they cannot change, why they cannot develop, why they cannot innovate, boils down to those three things. And I'm mentioning that because for me to show teachers examples, right, of this is how this teacher, and that's what you'll find on the website, at grade 5 level, teaches habitats, incorporating technology, using inquiry-based learning, ticks all of the, the curriculum boxes. Here's the rubric, here was the task, this is what it looks like. I think that's a great first step to helping teachers navigate that change, because if I don't know what you want from me, then I cannot give it to you. So I need an example, and at subject level, at grade level, that is relatable and that they can connect with, to be able to even see what's possible. Because I think a lot of the time it's like we're guiding these teachers into this realm of darkness, and they're like, okay, where are we going? What do you want from me? And when we show them concrete examples of what that looks like, and we sit with them and we say, okay, how do you think they thought about the learning design? What elements of this do you think would work in your classroom? Which elements would not, right? It's a design and a coaching process. I don't think it's a case of you can tell a teacher to get over X, Y, Z and just move on. Because also, if they're not empowered to create those learning spaces and to design that kind of learning, then they're going to fail. And then we come back to the this creativity stuff doesn't work, or this curiosity stuff doesn't work. So my approach is really that design thinking process, right? And the empathizing and defining the problem and connecting them to other examples is a really powerful place to start. But I'm going to try and keep it short because I can talk all day about these things.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, this is another conversation, next Empower Hour. I see another hand is up. Ms. Conrad, Warda.
Yeah, hi, Hafisa. Lindsay, just wonderful. I'm sure Hafisa will agree with me that it definitely tugs at our hearts, and it tugs at the hearts of everybody. And I wanted to share with you, the department has put in a transform to perform strategy. And you're nodding your head, so you're familiar. That's wonderful. And the whole point and purpose of that is to deal with all of those limiting mindsets that people have. And we've done it across the entire spectrum of the education ecosystem. And the whole point and purpose of it was to help people overcome those things, so that when new ways of doing, ways of thinking comes into their space, they're in an embrace-able emotional state.
Yeah.
so that when you present this kind of thing, or we present e-learning, or we land technology, they can then take it on and do it. Without that fundamental groundwork, you can bring change and people can be curious about that change. The way it sticks is it needs the foundation.
Absolutely.
So hence I'm very passionate about continuing with the change mindset work, which is the work we do with teachers, and then the growth mindset work, which is the work we do with learners, and all of the rest of the stuff that we do with all of the officials around it. Because the world is going to change on a dime like this. And tomorrow there's going to be something else. And the day after that, there's going to be something else. And if we don't acknowledge and embrace that we fundamentally need to learn how to manage our emotions around change and do the work to get there, change is going to happen around us, and we're just going to get crushed under the weight of change. So yeah, it's a little bit of a anyway. Thank you very much, and I hope sincerely that the teachers, if there are teachers on the chat, that they continue to embrace the transform to form strategy, so that when there are little bumps in the road, it's easy to overcome those bumps. It's easy to overcome all of the negative questions that could arise, because often people, when they've gone through the work and the mental reconditioning, if you will, they answer those questions for themselves, and it doesn't then need us to go and have an additional, oh, let me unscramble that for you, because they would have unscrambled it for themselves. So that whole notion of taking control of your thinking about your thinking, to get to the space where you give yourself permission to embrace the new. That to me is what we must do. Absolutely. Fundamentally, at the very base core.
Yeah, and modeling those things in our actions, you know.
Absolutely.
Those frameworks are in place, but I mean, if anything, if this serves as an encouragement to continue to, you know, to drive those things and to implement those things, because they are the foundation of the necessary change management process that we're all passionate about.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and thank you, Hafitha, for bringing this to us. And Clinton, always you've got such a phenomenal team. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Warda. I also want to just want to say thank you to you, Lindsay. I think this has been such a profound Yay! But before I give a big thank you to you, I know we are over time, and I do thank everybody for being here still in our session. But you know, after the session, and I want to lean to Lindsay's excellent presentation in terms of this around. After this session, it's like, what do you see for yourself? What do you want? And what do you think? And what do you wonder? So like, maybe just add that in the chat to leave for Lindsay as well, in terms of what the session actually brought forth, in terms of what I see, what I think, what I wonder around after hearing all of these amazing things as well. So yeah, so Lindsay, my dear friend, my colleague, my mentor, you have done an exceptional job. This has been such an enlightening and awe-inspiring discussion, and the topic, like I said, in itself is an awe-inspiring topic and requires so much of us. And I believe that it is more than just the session that we need to have. It is something that needs to cultivate more thinking, more resources, more conversations around, because these kind of conversations are not held enough. And we need to be able to converse from that perspective. And I think, Lindsay, we want to know what you see as well, what you think and what you wonder perhaps in the chat, because that will be definitely a wonderful expression for us too. And also just want to say thank you for bringing this to us. Thank you for bringing it with such passion, with such with thoughtfulness, with such conscious thinking as well, and the collective responsibility that comes with that thinking too. And I'm just so driven by where we can go with this now. And also, if you can share all of those resources that you mentioned in your presentation, some of the links that you mentioned, some of the explorative concepts and tools that you also thought about. You know, one thing that I truly love about what you had also brought forth is that you showed in an expansive way that it's not just about using a digital tool. It is about that cognitive, that explorative, that conscious use of the tool and how it actually elevates the learning experience and not just a learning outcome. And I think that is such a powerful aspect, and not many grapple with that as yet. And by your expression of it, it actually showed that in so many ways. So I want to thank you, I want to applaud you, and I want to say that I see a an awe-inspiring being that has truly taken the educational landscape and inspiring others. I think about how much more you are going to bring to education, how much more you can bring to us, and I wonder how much we're going to be collaborating with you.
Nice.
So,
Keep
yeah.
wondering, girl. And I actually, it's interesting. So sometimes, when I do learning design workshops with teachers, then I invite them in to share, and I like and I wonder as a feedback methodology. And I always say to them, so they'll say, I like how you've done this, and I wonder this, and the natural tendency is immediately to jump to an answer. So the teacher will say, they'll say, I wonder, whether you could include an aspect of, and then the teacher goes, yes, no, we've got this here, and we've thought about this, and no. But actually, I think there's a really powerful, there's a lot of power that we can unlock when we sit with wonders. And I always say to them, take the wonder and keep it in your pocket. And if you don't like it, then throw it in the bin on the door on the way out. But if you like it, sit with it. Don't feel the need to immediately answer it. And I think as we kind of close, I think it will be really helpful for us to be conscious about what are we now wondering, and to sit with those wonders and let them kind of ruminate within us and within our hearts and minds, and share them with your colleagues, so that we can transform that wonder into learning and into powerful action.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And yes, and thank you to everybody that has participated this morning and that have also attended and that's going to be emailing me for the recording afterwards. We will be sharing the recording by Monday for the latest. I just have to collate all the resources as well. So I will be sharing it in Monday's week. And also, just again, thank you. I think that sums it up enough. Your authentic expression has truly brought so much passion to us as well. So I hope that this session, this Empower Hour episode 2, has also, will take us to continue to see, to think, and to wonder more within the educational spectrum. Thank you to everyone. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care of yourself. And Lindsay, final words from you?
I wonder. Have the courage to live in wonder.
Fantastic. Have the courage to live in wonder. Everyone, have a fantastic weekend. Take care of yourselves. And thank you so much.